Stephanie with Mid-Michigan Moms, and I'm here with Lyndsey, also of Mid-Michigan Moms, and our expert panelist, Becky from the Sleep Priority. Becky is a certified sleep consultant, and we're going to let her start out telling us a little bit about herself and how she became involved in sleep consulting.
Thank you, ladies, for having me on. So I'm actually a work-at-home mom with 3 boys. I have a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and one that will be 20 in a couple of weeks. And I honestly feel like I spend the majority of my time keeping babies alive, but intermittently and, intermingled, actually try to help families and parents teach their littles how to sleep independently. I really got into that when my youngest, my 2-year-old now, was about 6 months old. My 2 older kids had really both slept really well throughout the night. And then our youngest was born. And from the very beginning, we had issues. He had a milk protein allergy, which led to colic, and it led to reflux. And I would sleep 1 to 2 hours of broken sleep a night, all night. And this happened for months. It wasn't like, it was just, intermittently. This was like an every night thing. I felt like an all night diner for him because it was the only thing that would really calm him down and get him to sleep. And like a lot of other people, I never really knew what sleep training was. I'd never heard of it. But it was about that same time that Ginger Z from Good Morning America had introduced her segment on sleep training her son. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute, what is this? And so my son at that point, he's 6 months old. I had a couple of months before that, I had been diagnosed with severe postpartum depression and anxiety. And I was really, really struggling on a really deep level. I was at home with my boys all the time. I never left the house because my son's reflux was so bad. He just couldn't handle the car. And so after hearing the story from Ginger Z, I was like, okay, we got to do something. So I had actually did a lot of research. I found the Family Sleep Institute, and we ended up hiring a consultant with them. And I was very, very skeptical when we did, but she was wonderful. She worked with us. She helped explain the science of sleep to us on a level that we really understood, which for me was huge because I'm a researcher and, but at the same time, I'm exhausted and I really wanted to understand, why is my son not sleeping? Mm-hmm. She walked through us, things step by step with us. She walked with us, alongside of us through the process to help us along the journey. And I'm not even lying when I say, like, 3 nights into sleep training with my son, he was literally sleeping in the crib from 7 o'clock at night to 7 o'clock in the morning, straight through without waking up to feed. And I was amazed. And so I was like, okay, I got to know everything there is about this because I want to do this and I want to help people the way that I was helped with our son. So.
Oh my goodness, what a difference that makes, I'm sure, for you to be able to sleep for the first time.
What exactly is, for those of us who haven't done this journey, what is sleep training or consulting? Like, what does that consist of? If I were to call you and say, my kid never sleeps, what am I signing up for?
So what sleep training really is, it gets a really bad rap in the news and in social media because a lot of, anti-sleep training advocates talk about just the cry it out aspect of it, of sleep training. And that's really not what sleep training just simply means. Coaching parents through helping their child sleep independently and learn those skills to sleep independently, which is it's a lifetime process. And it's something that once their child learns that, they're going to keep that with them for the rest of their life. A lot of that means just getting their littles on an ideal sleep schedule. Or, if they're going through developmental milestones or, maybe going through a developmental milestone, helping them to process that and to get through that. But it also, one of the important aspects of what I do is really teaching parents what a safe sleep environment looks like, because a lot of parents really don't understand that. So a lot of that comes into any family that I work with. I go through that aspect with them. it also means looking at that sleep environment and looking at those sleep associations that may be hindering them actually getting a good night's sleep or sleeping well. So that's really it, what sleep training is, the whole aspect of it.
Okay.
Great. All right. Real quick, before I ask the question I have for you, Becky, we wanted to talk about your giveaway. So you are giving away one of two options, which I think is great because it appeals to moms with itty bitty ones and moms with older ones too. So Becky will be giving away to one of our viewers either an expectant or new parent package. And with this package, she will go through kind of what makes up a safe sleep environment and why that's important. Also some expectations for the first couple of months that after baby's birth, and some things that are typical for all babies, some things to be on the lookout for. But then also touching on helping babies to self-soothe. Or if you have older ones and that don't sleep well and you are exhausted and need to learn some tips and tricks, she's also offering a 1-week support package where she'll help those parents and kids kind of find a better routine and to find better sleep behavior. So, and whomever wins, they get to choose which package they want. And we'll be asking a question toward the end of our talk with Becky. And so for a chance to win that, you'll have to answer that question. Okay. So real quick, I have another question for you. Sure. So as a sleep consultant, do you get any training or do you take any classes, or what makes you the sleep expert?
Sure, I actually do. As I said, I had actually reached out to the Family Sleep Institute when we were looking for somebody for our to sleep train our youngest. And so I actually have a certification through the in infant and children's sleep consulting through the Family Sleep Institute, which I like to call the Harvard of sleep training programs. Their certification program is really rigorous, and it's really comprehensively focuses on research-based training for sleep, all things sleep. So I put in over 250 hours of training and research that was all part of the requirement for my graduation. We work through case studies through that time. We are required to go through research studies and, reviews. We have research-based readings that we're required to do. I'm not sure if you can actually see. I don't think you can see behind me because it's up the next shelf up, but there are about 14 books above me that I had to read over a course of about 6 months. I had 3 weeks at a time to read each one.
Oh goodness!
In order to go through my training. So I was also required to work with pro bono clients as part of my graduation requirement. And I went through a 4-month post-grad case study and supervision with the Family Sleep Institute instructors and mentors for the program. I have a certification through the American Academy of Pediatrics in SIDS education, as well as as training in lactation and breastfeeding and how to successfully implement sleep training with those families, because a lot of people feel like you can't really sleep train and breastfeed at the same time. And I did that myself. And so one of the other things that I actually want to do here in the near future is to do the training to become a lactation consultant as well, so that I can add that in there and really help families understand how you can do both things successfully. I am also currently going through a certification with the Wonder Weeks Academy, which focuses on infant mental health and development. I'm sure if you've heard of the Wonder Weeks and LEAPs, that's really what it is. I dive really, the course dives really deep into what those developmental leaps and milestones what they are and how they can affect sleep and sleep quality in infants and children through the age of 2. So I'm a constant learner. And so I'm constantly finding new, courses, and we have continuing education credits that are required in order for us to continue to stay certified every year. So I am constantly learning new things in the field.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Wow. Great. Excellent. Gosh, I learned so much from that response. Because I am one of those people who did not believe that a nursed baby could sleep through the night.
So was I.
I'm living that life, so that's where we're at.
So there is a light at the end of the tunnel, Stephanie. Okay, so you had mentioned earlier, and this is what I think of, because I think this was kind of the experience I have with sleep training, is that it's letting your child cry it out, and that's how we teach them to self-soothe. Could you just touch on the techniques or methods you use, just briefly, just to kind of differentiate it from that method?
Well, anti-sleep training advocates really push the button with families, and especially with us, vulnerable moms, when it comes to sleep training. And sleep training is cry it out, and cry it out is, torturing your child. And there's so many, bad things that come with that. And so that absolutely is not what sleep training is about. As I said before, sleep training is really about coaching the parents through helping their little one to learn how to sleep independently and nothing more. So the information that's out there about cry it out that's absolutely not what we really do. I work personally with each family that reaches out to me for help. And between me and the family, we decide on what sleep training method is going to work best for that family, whether it be a more no involvement approach like cry it out, or, a more moderate or more involved, gentle approach where, we always tell families, sleep training produces tears. There's no way to get around that. Even the gentle methods produce tears. Because when babies are overtired, or you're changing what a baby is used to in the way of going to sleep, they cry because they don't know any different. Mm-hmm. So I really work with the families to see what they're most comfortable with. I assess mom especially to see if she's struggling with postpartum issues, because that can really play into the factor of, okay, how are we, how quickly do we need to move through the sleep training process to get, to where we need to go. I want to look at their development, the child's developmental milestone, and kind of where they're at that point. And then I give them that plan. So we really, it's really up to the parent, what method of sleep training they want to do. And I'm trained in all of them. I can say that the no involvement or cry it out approach that people talk about typically gets the quickest results. And so if a parent is just really reaches out to me and they're really, really struggling, and that's, they just need help now, that's typically when that approach, typically when we would use that approach. For younger babies, we typically use a more gentle approach, just because they're still building that neurological and psychological aspect. And so we don't want them to feel in any way that there's a disconnect between mom and babies. So for the younger babies, we tend to do a more gentle approach because that's what works the best for them. One of the things that we really see with kids, and what's really, really hard, is anytime I hear parents, anytime I meet with a parent, they're always like, oh my gosh, I can't stand to hear my child cry. But what we see a lot of times is the sleep training approach that we start with is typically what works for the parents, but may not be what actually works best for the child. So I take all of that into consideration when when we're coming up with the plan and figuring things out. And I explain all of that to the parents to see what's going to work best for them and for their child based on where they're at developmentally and biologically.
That's great. Thanks.
Yeah, I like how it's like meeting in the middle versus, because I think of, which is going to lead me to the next question I'm going to ask you. I feel like I have kids of all ages, and I feel like different ones would work for them. But then also what makes me feel comfortable, you know what I mean? It's like it's a fine line you're walking, so my question is, I have an older child who does not sleep. So what ages of children do you work with?
So we don't advocate any sort of sleep training before the child is at least 4 months of age, because they're just, biologically, they're not mature enough to really, for their circadian rhythm to kick in and really start regulating that sleep cycle. And when we say 4 months, I mean 4 months adjusted. So, we go by the estimated due date rather than a child's birth date, because if a child is 4 months of age, but they were born a month early, then biologically they're really only 3 months of age. And when, even if they're born preterm, their bodies are still developing at that same biological age that they would be, had they been born full term. After that, it's really on an individual basis. My website says through 6 years of age. I really personalize it based on what the parents' needs are, because for some adolescents and school age kids, it may be something simple as just a schedule tweak where, toddlers can be toddlers and preschoolers can be the death of us. And so for a lot of older toddlers and even into the preschool age, they may take a lot more time just because, one, they're super strong-willed. And so parents have a really hard time when that will is so strong. And the other thing is,
choir, Becky.
I have been there, and I like I said, I have a 2 and 4 year old, so I've been there, and I mean, even as a sleep consultant, I still go through struggles with my own kids, so I get it. A lot of times with the toddlers and early preschool, we're working with breaking sleep associations and bad habits that have been formed for months or years as well. So it really depends on the what we're looking at, what situations and issues we need to break and change.
So I'm guilty of all those too. So we need to clearly sign up for a course with you in my household. So my question is, if a parent like me needs help, how long can they expect working with you to see an improvement in their child's sleep habit?
So that really depends on how involved the parents want to be in the sleep training process. If I'm working with a family that's really struggling and just needs to see quick results, we may decide to go with a no involvement approach or that cry it out approach. And with that approach, we typically see results within just a few days. The more involved the parents are in the process of sleep training and being present in a child's room, the longer it typically takes for the child to be sleep trained. A lot of times what we actually see is if the parents step back and give their child that opportunity to actually fall asleep and learn those self-soothing skills on their own, they're going to do that more successfully than if a parent continues to go in. Because for a lot of children, a parent's presence can be either super stimulating to them or can be agitating. Like, why are you coming into my room and not picking me up or not doing these things that you normally would do, like rocking me to sleep or feeding me to sleep? That's what I'm used to. That's what I want. And you're not giving me that. And so I'm upset by that. And so a lot of times it's just a matter of, let's just give them the opportunity to do it themselves. So if we're looking at, using a gentle method, or we're looking at stuff like early morning wakings, that can sometimes take 2 to 3 weeks to really break. Nighttime usually comes together pretty quickly for most of those, most of the methods that we use, but nap times and those early morning wakings can sometimes take that 2 to 3 full weeks to finally come together and consolidate where they're doing really well.
I just have one question I'm going to throw in there. So I think sleep training is only through the night. You also do like naps, early morning See,
Yes,
I picture like sleeping is just bedtime and on, not other sleep issues.
No, because the aspect of the issues that go on with children as far as sleep and that overtiredness comes from the 24-hour sleep cycle. So we want to, obviously that nighttime sleep is going to be typically the first to develop, but we obviously want to look at that entire schedule for the child and make those tweaks that are going to be biologically appropriate and ideal for that child and their age. So those times are going to look a little bit different based on what the child, the child's biological age. So we look at the entire picture and the entire schedule that the child is, on their daily schedule when we do sleep training.
Huh, good to know. That's something I just learned.
That's great. All right, another question we have for you is, what are some of the typical reasons that babies are waking often in the night? And what are some easy to implement ways to reduce the number of those wakings?
So I feel like you're kind of looking back into my life and what I went through with my son a year and a half ago. But really, as I said before, once that circadian rhythm starts to regulate baby's sleep schedule, like around that 4-month of age mark, their sleep space is so much more important than it ever was before. Because as a newborn, they really kind of sleep anywhere, anytime. They don't have they don't have a biological, system in place that's highlighting the daytime and the nighttime, that light and dark. So it's going to be really important at that point that parents make sure that they have their child in a sleep conducive environment so that their room is completely dark. And I don't mean just standing in the room and saying, okay, it's dark. I mean, get down to your child's level and look at, is the room really dark, or is there a spot that there's light shining through, or the night light is shining in their face in the crib, or anything like that may inhibit sleep. Because children do not know how, obviously, especially the younger children, they don't know how to tell time. And so the circadian rhythm really works on the light dark cycle. And so when it's light outside, their body and their brain is telling them it's time to wake up. And so if there's light shining on them, they're feeling like it's time to wake up and not time to sleep. So that's one of the big things. You also want to make sure that you have some sort of constant white noise in the room, because that will help drown out some of that outside noise, and give them the opportunity to be able to self-settle. Even though we don't advocate for sleep training prior to 4 months of age, parents can start doing self-soothing with their children at a very young age. That's something that you can start working with them on very, very young. And I don't mean like put them in the crib and just let them cry. For young children, we never recommend that. Even if you give them a minute or two to let them settle and see if they're going to, can settle themselves into sleep, that gives them the opportunity to start learning how to self-settle and hopefully learn how to follow them, get themselves asleep without needing mom and dad to do that. Just as important as learning that, though, is to understand that even as adults, we all wake up between sleep cycles. Most of the time, we don't remember that throughout the night, but babies go through that as well. And so imagine if you fall asleep in your bed and you wake up and you're laying on the kitchen floor. Are you going to stay laying on your kitchen floor, or are you going to get up and go back and get in your bed? Babies are going to have that. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so babies have that same association. When mom and dad get them ready for bed at night, they either rock them to sleep or they feed them to sleep, and then they put them down in the crib. And when they wake up in between those sleep cycles, which their sleep cycles are actually shorter than an adult sleep cycle. So usually we see babies waking up after 30 to 45 minutes because they're transitioning through sleep cycles. And if they were in mom and dad's arms when they fell asleep, but now they're in this cold, dark crib and mom and dad, they're by themselves, they're going to cry out and want mom and dad to come back, because that's their sleep association. That's the only way that they have learned how to get themselves back to sleep. And so giving them that opportunity to fall, to be in the bed drowsy and go through that cycle of actually falling asleep on their own is going to help them transition through those sleep cycles on their own when they wake up, either at nap time or in the middle of the night. The other thing for parents to keep in mind is that, babies are noisy sleepers. And so what I see a lot of times is baby makes a noise and mom's first instinct is to run into them and get them. They may not even be awake at that point. They may just be making noise in their sleep or transitioning between those sleep cycles. But because mom ran in there to them, now baby is awake and baby, has to go through that whole process of falling asleep all over again. So just giving them that even if it's just a minute or two to calm themselves back down and fall back into that sleep, or see if they're really actually awake in that process, can go a long way in helping them actually learn how to sleep on their own.
That's such great information. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so I have another question. I think that I went through with all of mine. Is it okay to let babies use a pacifier or a lovey or another object to help them fall asleep, to help them soothe themselves?
So the American Academy of Pediatrics, hold on, guys. The American Academy of Pediatrics actually recommends the use of a pacifier to help reduce the risk of SIDS for that first year. As a sleep consultant, I really leave that choice up to the parents. There's absolutely nothing wrong with letting your child use it. And it's actually a great self-soothing tool. If it falls out and babe can't put it back in their mouth and mom and dad are constantly having to play what we in the sleep consulting world refer to as passy ping pong, where we're having to go in and constantly reinsert it every time babe wakes up, then it becomes a problem. If you're only having to go in 1 or 2 times a night to replace it because it's fallen out and you're okay with that, then we absolutely do not, see an issue with that. The other thing that we've really seen, and I've seen this a lot, I want to say I've probably seen it with every toddler that I've sleep trained with. If for younger or for older kids in toddler age that strong will, if toddlers insist that they can't reinsert it themselves, or they decide that they're going to stand up in the crib and they're going to throw it across the room because they think mom and dad are going to come back in and give it back to them and interact with them, that's when it really becomes a problem. And so I tell parents, if they throw it out, which they will, you wait until the next time that you go into them to give it back to them, because they'll quickly learn that if they want to have their passy, they don't want to throw it because mom and dad they aren't going to immediately come back and give it back to them. As far as the use of another lovey or a blanket or comfort object, the AAP doesn't recommend anything else be in the crib prior to 12 months of age because it is an increase in SIDS risk. The only other thing that we really recommend is either swaddling or using a sleep sack with younger infants. And even the swaddle, it is recommended that as soon as a child shows any instinct of starting to roll, that swaddle go away, because it does pose a higher risk of SIDS at that point. The sleep sacks are made in a number of different sizes, and so there are sizes out there where toddlers can even use it if they really want to. So, but other than that, after 12 months of age, it is okay to introduce a lovey or a small blanket to them. Pillows we typically don't recommend until at least 2 years, and then that's typically we would recommend like a toddler, one of the small toddler pillows rather than a regular size pillow. But
okay, great. And so to kind of piggyback on that, so for a chance to enter to win the giveaway from Becky and the Sleep Priority, and you can just put your response in the comments. Did your little ones over the age of 1 have a lovey or something that they slept with to help them comfort themselves at night? And if they did, just leave us a comment and then we will draw from one of the comments a winner.
And if you don't have one that's over the age of 1, is there like a favorite stuffed animal you had or lovey as a child for our expectant moms and our new moms with babies under the age of 1 to enter?
Perfect. And oh man, I was gonna see you had some.
That would randomly draw from all the comments below on who's going to win Becky's package.
Oh, also, if you have any questions at all for Becky, you can drop them in the comments and we'll do our best to kind of look through those and get those answered for you also. All right, perfect.
And I promise I will also go through the comments that I've already seen on the post and give you guys some responses as well over the next couple of days.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you.
And so I guess our last question is for all of these moms like me who are kind of mind blowing on the services you provide or the stuff we've learned. What exactly are the services or packages you offer?
So I have packages that range anywhere from 1 week, 2 weeks, or 4 weeks of support for families. And with each one of those, I'm going to help coach the parents through that sleep training process. Most of the time, I recommend a 2-week package just because it typically takes 2 to 3 weeks to really see the sleep come together. If you're doing a more gentle process, obviously you may need a little bit more time. But with each one of those, the 2 and 4 week package, you're going to actually have access to me personally via email, text, phone calls. And I also have an interactive sleep log that I work with every client that I work with, where parents can go in and enter in all the information that I ask throughout, to keep track of how baby's doing or how their little one is doing. And any comments, mom and dad can actually put the comments right on the sleep log. With the 1 week package, it is just an email support package. With each one of those, the family does have an opportunity to add on more time, where if they do the 1 week package and they think, oh, it's that I need more than that, they can add on extra time at the end of that package without any issues. So each package consists of a 1-hour phone consult with me. I typically would offer in-home consults, although right now I am just doing virtual consults. So I can really work anywhere. I'm in the Grand Blanc, Genesee County area, but I can work anywhere. I actually just got done working with a family in Massachusetts. So,
wow. So interesting.
During that 1-hour consult, I'm going to actually get on the phone with them or do a live video consult with them. And I'm going to discuss what the process of sleep training looks like with them. I'm going to answer any questions or concerns that the family has. I'm going to look at that dynamic of, where is the child developmentally and biologically, and get a good idea of, where we go from here. I also ask parents to fill out an in-depth intake form that I use for the consult, but also for sleep when I write my sleep plan. After that consultation, the families will actually get an in-depth sleep plan from me that will be individualized and personalized for their child and their situation and the sleep training approach that they want to work through. I typically work regular business hours, but as I said, I know that first couple of nights of sleep training is really rough. And so I make myself pretty readily available to families through that first week, especially where if they're concerned about something or, babe all of a sudden decides that they're going to try and climb out of the crib because mom and dad aren't responding to them in the way that they think that they should be. I've had parents call me frantic, like, what do I do? And so I'm there to answer those questions. I really want families to feel like I'm there for that comfort, but also for that supportive aspect, and help them to continue to be consistent, because the consistency in sleep training is really the most important aspect of getting your child to learn how to sleep independently and become a healthy sleeper for life, because it really is a life skill for them to learn that.
That's great. Thank you. All right. So if anybody has any other questions for Becky, please leave them in our comments, and be sure to watch our video to find out how to win a prize from Becky in the Sleep Priority, and to get everyone sleeping in the house again through the night. Stephanie.
Yeah.
So Becky, thank you so much for joining us. And
it's amazing how in 30 minutes interesting, like all the little tips you don't know or rules or stuff like that on like the sleep environment and even just like the dark on their level or how your bad habits are affecting you for many years and nights down the road. So we appreciate it. And we'll link all Becky's Facebook and social and website up above too. So if you need to get a hold of her and an email address for those interested.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me.
All right. Absolutely. Thank you for joining us.